How do we push through the old patterns, yeah, the old paradigm within us to move into a more abundant, more joyful, more enthusiastic, more ecstatic life? And, of course, life is, has its ups and downs. And, but we do carry these patterns that were programmed into us from childhood. We are also carrying ancestral lineage, and also life experiences and, who we are. Sometimes when we try something new and we fail, that kind of lingers there, creates another pattern. And, that kind of stuff comes up when we're trying something new. We are all shifting into a new paradigm, a new way of living, a new way of working. Yeah, and it's an exciting time. Also, we are carrying these old sort of scarcity patterns or separation patterns where we don't feel super connected. And I go through it quite often. It's just layers of the onion. Yeah, it's just one of those things. We could look at it like, we have these ideas and inspirations and these goals and maybe even a new purpose that we want to move into, and we've done a lot of work, and our vibration has changed, and we've had these awakenings, and we're still struggling to make some money and to monetize this new way of living. Yeah, and for me, it's like, I just want to serve. Yeah, I want to do something fun, but I also want my purpose to help everyone else. Yeah, so, and that's really what nature's all about, right? Interdependence and connection, right? We're all working together in unity. This is the world that we want to create for ourselves, and it starts within us. So I've come up with some really cool ways to move through these barriers, taking the leaps through and resolving these separation beliefs and patterns. And the patterns that are within us, like these habitual patterns that are, a lot of times they're unconscious, yeah? We're working in an unconscious reality that is creating our conscious reality, which, as you know, doesn't really help us. So we're moving into this new vibration where we are becoming more aware and we're becoming conscious. And that is the shift, yeah? And it happens within us. We can't really expect anyone to do it for us, right? And so, you have an idea, and, there's so much baggage around, being wealthy, being abundant. Yeah, especially if you're a spiritual person. There's so much pressure to survive and make money. And that's where a lot of these patterns really emerge from. So I'm not really about not making money. I want to make money. I want to create income. I want to take care of myself and my family and anyone who comes across my path. And part of that is taking action. And so one of the main things that I really want to talk about is taking action, yeah, towards what we want to create, like consciously creating our reality. So how the hell do we do that? Right? How do we do that? And it really should be, and it is easy, if we understand a couple principles. One of which is entering into neutrality. Now, when I talk about neutrality, I'm not talking about doing nothing. Yeah, I'm talking about entering into a non-judgmental vibration. Yeah, really closer to like a love vibration. Yeah, And we can, people call it presence or coherence. Yeah, it's that state of being in neutrality. And it's really the closest place to like that universal mind, source energy, God, because the way I look at God is like God wants us, that God wants us to be happy and create in abundance. Yeah. And so we can do that. That's the whole point of this video, and really all of the videos that I'm making is like we can begin to create whatever we want to create. And so sometimes we don't know what we want to create. And that's when we need to take a little bit of time and just sit in this place of neutrality, yeah? And wait for that purpose to emerge, yeah? It will emerge. It will come through you. And mostly you already know. If you don't know exactly what your purpose is, I think that you have an inkling of what it is, yeah? And you just don't believe that you can do it. Yeah, because, maybe you got kids, or you have a job, and you got a mortgage, or whatever it is, or just doubts and fears that prevent you from taking action, yeah? Maybe you're looking for validation, or a lot of the people around you that surround you are not supporting you. And that's why it's really great to not tell anybody when you're just cultivating that seed, that newly found seed of purpose or unity. Yeah, just, keep it to yourself a little bit. You know the people who you can trust, who support you. You can share with them, obviously. And you can share with anybody you want to share with. So what's the deal with the neutrality, right? How do we enter into this place of presence? Yeah. So we could go and go to a shrine and meditate, or climb a mountain and meditate with a monk for 10 years. Most of us don't have that luxury. For me, it's been the biggest change for me has been finding ways to come into this vibration of coherence, of neutrality, through my everyday actions, right? Through like driving, in the bathroom, doing dishes. And I'm just coming into this place where I'm observing everything that is happening, like all my thoughts, my actions, the people around me, nature. I'm just becoming like the witness, yeah? And what inevitably starts happening is thoughts begin to arise when that happens. And what I want to say is this is the time of great change, of great transformation. Yeah, this is when we begin to shed the skin, the old skin of separation, when we begin to become aware of what's happening. If we're living in the subconscious all the time, most of those patterns, most of those thoughts are self-defeating. It's kind of crazy, and I speak from experience. I come from a family that was really, living in scarcity and really just kind of negative. Yeah, when you talk about like being positive or creating change, it's really like just played down and like, yeah, it's kind of rough. And it's okay to be spiritual and want to do really great things and to create a lot of income. It's okay. That's the one thing. That's the relationship with money. It's okay to be connected to nature and connected to my body. It's okay to be wealthy too. All of these things can coincide with each other. And so when we have an idea, right? And I'll give you an example. So I went and studied sound healing, vibrational science, couple different schools, about 4 or 5 years of that, and some herbalism. That was a time when I was really like learning a lot and going to school, um, and I got to a point where I had graduated and I had some shamanism training behind me too, and so I had traveled to Egypt and Peru and worked with some gateways there with sound, and I really felt ready, but I had this really kind of crazy stage fright, and I was really afraid to go in front of other people, and I'm sitting there in my living room and I'm ready. I got all the instruments and everything, and I feel like I just want to do it, and I just wasn't doing it. There was all these patterns that were coming up, right? Like, oh, you're not good enough. Nobody's going to like what you're doing. All of the things that, happen to us when we're trying to create a new reality for ourselves. Yeah, it's like the valley of despair. You come to a place and like, you have learned enough. I have learned enough at that time. There was nothing more for me to learn about creating sound. I had to just get out there and share what I had learned with other folks. And so the craziest thing was the stage fright. So I went and so I just decided to do it. I just made some flyers. I partnered up with a new place, and they put the word out. And all my friends were like, "Yeah, we'll come and everything." So I went and I set up, and I was kind of terrified a little bit. I mean, it was all just an illusion. And so I set up and I chant and sing, and that's probably the most challenging part for me. And so 6 people came, and I didn't know any of them. None of my friends showed up, which is probably good. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I said hello, and I was really kind of quiet, and they all laid down, and I started playing. And, I just started singing. And I just closed my eyes. I didn't want to look at anyone at the time, and I just started singing. And, it just came through me. And all the folks that were there were like, oh, that was amazing. And, I had all these amazing experiences. And so that, just that one little action, right? Like you think of it like a seed, right? And that was like me just watering that seed and allowing it to grow a little bit. And that gave me enough confidence to come to the next week. And then every week that I showed up, there would be like maybe 5 or 6 more people. And like within like a month and a half, there was like 40 or 50 people there. And they were really powerful circles. They were these really beautiful shamanic sound healing sessions. And so the point is, like, you get to a certain point, right? And then you will have to move through. You'll have to take the leap, yeah? But this is what I didn't know at the time was, if I had come into neutrality, yeah? And I think that I was able to do that when I was creating sounds and able to transmute some of these patterns. When you get to a point where you're stuck, this is the time when you really want to learn and practice coming into presence and neutrality. And what you're going to do is you're just going to come in and you're going to follow your breath. Yeah, and you don't have to change your breath. Just becoming really present of everything around you. And sometimes it's almost better to keep your eyes open when you're doing this, yeah? Because you're learning how to do it when you're walking through your everyday life. And what will happen is, when you enter into this fully conscious state, this fully conscious vibration of unity, you will notice that these patterns, these old patterns, and they can, regardless of where they were birthed, they come up, and then you have a thought. All you have to do is witness the thought or the fear or the doubt. That's all you have to do. See it, yeah? feel it, and then move it. Because you can't resolve anything unless you're willing to see it in neutrality. Yeah, you're holding it in this beautiful love vibration and this view, like, just, it's like, okay, that served me. That was trying to keep me safe. That pattern was trying to keep me safe. So when we see it, when we witness it, yeah, then we feel it. We can follow it back to the origins, or we can just feel it. Yeah. And then we just move it. Yeah, it's really very simple. But it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to see those patterns. It's just, we think and we believe that just being in the subconscious and just pretending like these fears, these patterns don't exist, makes it easier for us. But it really doesn't. It's the opposite. It makes our life harder, right? Like, we can create in the fluidity of the divine if we are willing to go into these places of neutrality. Yeah, just to see it, just to be the witness, the observer of what wants to resolve. And once we resolve these patterns, yeah, and sometimes they're stubborn and it takes a few times to witness them. Once we resolve them, then new patterns are birthed, and that fills us with energy and excitement and fulfillment to move forward. Yeah, we don't need validation anymore. We don't need to defend ourselves. We become more focused because now we have resolved these patterns that have been weighing us down, that have been sucking the energy from us. Yeah. And so this just becomes a skill. It's not like a one-off. Like, I personally have just been learning how to enter into neutrality as much as I can, as often as I can. Yeah. And it's like going back to, it's like drinking nectar from a flower. Like, feeds you, instead of the fear feeding us. It becomes like there's like this inspirational flow of the divine feeding us. So this is why, finding ways to enter into neutrality, and you can do it however you want to do it. It's more important to be doing it throughout the day during regular activities than sitting aside for a half an hour in the morning. Although I'm not saying not to do that. I'm saying, what I've come to believe, that it creates more pathways when we're doing it throughout the day. Yeah? During just a regular life. Yeah, starting to embody, starting to integrate this new energy. And it's really just activating that conscious part of the brain. And starting to, the subconscious is, for most of us, is creating our reality. We want to be conscious creators, not subconscious creators, because the part of the brain that's subconscious is just relaying old messages. And this isn't intellectualized either. I can tell you, read my book and listen to what I'm saying, but until you practice it, it's just a theory. Yeah? So give it a shot. Let me know in the comments, because this is a new channel and I'm really wanting to get the word out. And I really, really believe that this will help anybody who tries what I'm talking about right now. I've just found it so helpful in my life, and I just wanted to share it. Okay, y'all, have a great day. Many blessings.